let you know. I feel like that's a good friend. I'd be like, hey, did you smell yourself, or did you maybe did you fart? But something doesn't smell right.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
And Nick Johnston.
For the most part, to be fair, I don't want to completely, justify a sweep, but the Royals are red hot right now. Vinny Pasquantino might be Ted Williams reincarnated. I'm just kind of throwing that out there.
On WRMN 1410 AM, the voice of the Valley.
Welcome back to AM 1410 WRMN. I am Mike Napolitano, back in studio here. It's been a whole month.
I was wondering who you were when you walked in here.
I'm an imposter.
I was saying,
Wrong
who's
guy.
this guy?
Walked in off the street.
Get a load of this guy.
Yeah, who's this guy over here? Yes, back again here at AM 1410. I was broadcasting some Central States hockey, had a couple of different gigs here and there.
Yeah.
And
You've been busy.
Playoff time, yeah, it's kept me busy. But you did hear us on the show all together, Nick Johnston, Dalton Cooper, and myself. Last week, we had a great interview with former Boomers owner Pat Salvi, talking about the sale of Schaumburg's team, moving into a new chapter with Rev. But here in the flesh today, Dalton Cooper on the board, myself, Mike Napolitano. Join us if you're just tuning in. You can find us right here on YouTube if you've already found us and you're watching us, but it's the YouTube Live tab, and then go to On the Rise. You can check out WRMN, of course, on the dial, AM 1410, or listen in on the WRMN radio app. Feel free to call in or text us. The call-in line, 847-931-1410. Text line, 505-926-1410. Dalton Cooper is Dalton Cooper on X. I am Mike Napolitano on X. On Instagram, there's an underscore in between my two names, Mike and Napolitano. Dalton is just Dalton Cooper there. Follow our show socials on there as well. That's On the Rise 1410. I'll plug Nick in here too, even though he's not here with us. And Johnston 6351 on X. Nick Johnston 42 on Instagram. But yeah. Let's continue on here. I know I'm wearing a very special Olympic jersey today. We're going to be talking a lot of hockey because at 11 a.m. we're going to be joined by the Blackhawks insider, Charlie Roumeliotis. He's been on the show before, so good friend of the show. It'll be his second time. We'll be talking some Olympic hockey.
Recurring guest, yes.
We'll be talking a little bit also some Blackhawks even during this break and maybe some of the future. And, I mean, it's a great time for hockey right now, so what is not to love? But...
Yeah, and the women, too. Don't forget about the women.
Don't trust me. We have not forgotten about the women. This women's team is legit.
They put a spanking.
That is the exact same thing my buddy Grant Leader said. Oh, boy. Yeah. Oh, boy. That's for sure. Yeah. Even on my Italians. That's okay. Yeah. America first right now. But first and foremost, we got to talk about the weekend, last weekend. It was the Super Bowl weekend. Of course, everybody wants it to be a national holiday and take Monday off of work, right?
Next year, it will be.
Yeah, it will be because it'll be lined up with Valentine's Day, President's Day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
get excited.
Is this Monday President's Day?
Yes, it is.
Wow, would you look at that?
Wow.
I just got myself an extra holiday.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is correct.
But your thoughts on the Super Bowl? I'm sure you and Nick kind of previewed it. Was it what you were expecting? I think everybody had the Seahawks in this one. Did you have the Patriots?
I did. I wanted to go contrarian. I said to take the points just because, I think a record amount of money percentage-wise was on Seattle. So usually when the public jumps on one side, usually the other side ends up winning. So hedging,
with
if
the
anything.
Vegas odds.
Yeah, if anything, I wanted to hedge for our show purposes. That way we always had a winner regardless because Nick took Seattle. So at least one of us was going to be right.
Okay.
But no, I mean the utter domination of the Seattle defensive line against that Patriots offensive line it was from the jump. It was from the get-go. There's never been a shutout in Super Bowl history. I think we were talking about that in our group chat. And of course, 2 plays later, as soon as I sent that text, that was gone. But yeah, I mean, it was. Let me ask you this: do you think this iteration of the Patriots team, is it the worst team to ever make a Super Bowl?
Ooh. Ouch. I've heard some rumors that there were some Dolphins years that were pretty bad, though.
Maybe that, or the only other team that really came to mind was the Giants, the year that the Ravens beat them. Trent Dilfer got his, I think it was 2002.
Early 2000s,
something like that, right? 2001, 2002.
Could very well be. I don't want to say this is the worst. I think it's the worst Patriots iteration, of course, to make it to the Super Bowl. Even those Tom Brady teams that lost to Eli Manning, like, you still had Tom Brady, you still had a formidable opponent. And, I'm not saying that the Patriots didn't deserve to be there, but there was all the talk about the easy schedule. There was the talk about, getting a couple lucky breaks in the playoffs when Bo Nix goes down. And I think you get a much different Super Bowl if it's the Broncos and Bo Nix, of course. And that would have been an incredible matchup. Not to say that Drake May wasn't ready for this spotlight, but I think the team as a whole isn't there yet. Not to say that the Patriots can't get there. I mean, it might just be a couple years until we're seeing, unfortunately, this Patriots team back to where they were, maybe not as high as Tom Brady. I'm not putting it in that regard, but they could be a contender.
Yeah.
I knew going in that I had a feeling this was Seahawks all the way. And you talk about the domination, but nobody made it into the end zone until the fourth quarter. So despite the despite the Seahawks domination over the Patriots, nobody could score, really. This is what made it, in most people's eyes, a very boring Super Bowl. You only saw kicking. You only saw field goals being made. And I was just very surprised with the Seahawks because you took it. I understand the Patriots are going to step up their game. It's the Super Bowl, and they're going to try to shut down the Seahawks. But this is a Seahawks team that went against, in my eyes, a much tougher 49ers team and ran the entire field on them from the jump, from that opening kickoff return. So for them to not be able to score as easily against the Patriots, I think that was only the surprising factor to me in this game.
Yeah. Did you know Bad Bunny had more yards carrying the football at halftime than the Patriots did all the first half?
I saw that.
126 yards out to Next Gen Stats.
That's amazing.
But yeah, that to your point, it was a defensive game. Obviously, it's not very often you go into a game and if you bet your first touchdown score that you're still alive in the fourth quarter. To your point,
yeah.
But I think if anything, maybe this is the coming out party for Mr. McDonald up there in Seattle. The people have been kind of claiming him to be the Sean McVay of defense, if you will. The other big takeaway I had was, man, you got to feel really good if you're a Bears fan about what happened to Drake May. And all I could think about was, man, Caleb could be doing a lot more than what Drake May was doing in that game, regardless of the situation. So I think as a Bears fan, or looking at it from a Bears lens, I think that was another big takeaway is, okay, maybe they definitely have their guy. Like, everybody kept talking about Drake May, MVP, and he loses the MVP by one vote because somebody voted for Justin Herbert and X, Y, and Z. Well, I think we saw a good reason why Matthew Stafford was the MVP, and we saw another good reason why the Bears fans should be excited heading into next season. They have the coach, they have the quarterback, and I think now it's just time to put it all together.
Grant Leader chiming in saying the 1994 Chargers, probably the worst team to make the Super Bowl.
I could see that.
I don't remember that one off the top of my head, but I'll have to go back and do some research. It's not obviously it's not memorable, so I could see that being the case. I think there's a lot of bias here in Chicago that it would have been a more exciting Super Bowl if Caleb Williams was in it, but I don't disagree with that. I think that is a little bit of Chicago bias shining through, but at the same time, you saw everything he did in the playoffs. Even if they didn't come to play from the opening whistle, and they became the Cardiac Bears game in and game out, I think you had just better storylines. And I know the NFL is all about storylines, right? Here comes the script. But no, I mean, even just in general, you had just lackluster mid-play from Drake May. It was really Jason Myers that stood out in this one, and he's the kicker. So, I mean...
He got robbed of an MVP.
I was just going to ask you, do you think he got robbed of MVP in this game? I think the NFL doesn't really want to give a kicker the MVP in a Super Bowl because they don't want to play into that, it was just a bunch of field goals in this game. But that was this game. Like, you can't look at an omelet and say, "Oh, it's a porterhouse steak." Like,
wow, what an analogy!
And I'm not saying an omelet's bad. I eat eggs every morning. There's great protein.
Yeah,
but it's just not a porterhouse steak. So you can't call it that. It's good. It's still good. Why are you saying that something that is good is, it's going to be $300 for this grand porterhouse steak that you don't get well done.
Grand porter omelet.
Don't ruin. Don't eat shoe leather.
No, I think the biggest thing that I think the the way you could have seen Jason Myers is if he made like a game-winning kick and then also had all those field goals. Like maybe if Seattle kicks a winner at the buzzer, they win like 19-16 and he has 6 field goals. Maybe I could see that, but yeah, to your point, I don't think the NFL will give you. There's never been a MVP kicker, by the way, in Super Bowl history. That was also like another thing that was being talked about. By the way, those 1993 Chargers, they beat the Dolphins, Steelers, and then lost to the 49ers on their way to that Super Bowl. Stan Humphries was the quarterback for that season. So
who?
Yeah, exactly. Who? So Grant might be onto something with the name. They were 11-5 though. Coached by Bobby Ross. They were 5th in scoring. They were 9th in points against.
Did you say 11-5?
Yeah. That was back when they played 16 games.
Yeah, that's not terrible, especially in that era. But, I mean, it's not like, 14-3 what we see today, which would...
Yeah. Well, again, the Patriots played the easiest schedule in the NFL has seen in 25 years. Like, by a lot of different metrics.
Well, Seahawks were 14-3 too, but a much tougher schedule, right? Yeah. Of course. So, yeah, I mean... I see your point going back to the kicker thing. I see your point about like how it maybe has to be the game-winning field goal, but like you also kind of got to reward that the consistency was there all game, especially when he comes out with the most points of anybody on that field. So
yeah,
I get that it's not as nail-biting and exciting, but like then you're basically saying that the game has to be close and somebody has to play bad, and the Seahawks didn't play bad, despite me, still saying that they didn't. I still don't think they played their best game, which is weird of me to say because, you want to come with your best in the Super Bowl. But, like, I think they played a much tougher game and scored more at will against the 49ers. Could have just been a matchups thing. I'd have to look deeper into it. But when you trounce a 49ers team like that and then you barely scoot by in the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots.
Well, they beat the Rams too in the conference championship.
And I'm overlooking that Rams game as well. And Chicagoans, we know how tough those Rams were. That's, of course, Matthew Stafford and the Rams that knocked the Bears out. But I mean, I'll give them their respect. They played a tough game, and the Seahawks still defeated them. But man, I think we buried the lead a little bit here because Sam Darnold, despite me trying to preach for Jason Myers, but Sam Darnold. Nick and I called us out in the group chat, and I'll call us out live on air too. I don't think Nick minds. I will be the first to raise my hand and say, boy, was I wrong, because we did not see the Super Bowl. We did not see the playoffs running through Seattle, and Nick and I went as far to agree upon. I think he brought it up. Yeah, Sam Darnold in January, we didn't trust it, but boy, did he turn things around. And there's a lot of, Jets fans and Vikings fans that are kicking themselves right now. Panthers. Yeah, that's, wow, what a turnaround for the kid, huh?
Yeah.
I should say kid, veteran at this point.
Well, he's 28. He led the league in turnovers.
I still think of a kid.
And during the regular season, I think he had 20, right? And then he didn't have a single turnover in the postseason.
It's insane.
Which is incredible. But I think the more of the story was Kenneth Walker. I mean, he finally had his coming out party.
Yes.
Obviously, Zach Charbonnet got injured. But, 27 carries, 135 yards.
I think they were going to go to Walker anyways, no?
Super Bowl MVP. I mean, they were built all year on being a balanced backfield.
Okay,
if you looked at it, kind of, they kind of split carries quite a bit. But, yeah, to your point, no one really believed in Sam. Even the Minnesota Vikings didn't believe in Sam Darnold. And they won 14 games with him in the building. So
don't worry, they have 9.
Yeah, exactly.
They got J.J. McCarthy.
They might have Kirk Cousins, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Gosh, yeah.
They have a lot more questions than answers. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it is a nice story to see Sam Darnold come all the way back. First USC quarterback to ever win the Super Bowl, which is tough because we were hoping that'd be Caleb, but we'll get there. He could be the second.
He could be the second. That's okay. First doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Not in this.
I think the big takeaway too from a roster construction standpoint is now everybody is going to be looking for the next Sam Darnold. They're going to be looking for that quarterback that they're not going to have to pay $50 million a year for, somebody they can pay a little bit less money and actually build the team. It's kind of similar to the shift we've seen in the NBA last couple of years, to where now you start to see the teams are more homegrown with a lot more roster depth and talent, as opposed to having just like two or three top superstars and then just filling the roster out with guys, that are serviceable. Now it's like, okay, now we get our Sam Darnold a quarterback, we get a good value, we get a good player, and now, okay, let's build around that. Very similar to what you see with the rookie quarterbacks and things of that nature.
I don't want to jump too far into the NBA because we'll get into some Bulls talk later, but I wonder if, to your point, that the NBA is starting to see that those super teams that you build are not sustainable, because as soon as something doesn't click or the shininess starts to fade, they're out of town, and then you're left with nothing, right? I mean, we saw it with Cleveland a little bit. I mean, they've kind of bounced back.
I think New Jersey was probably
Miami.
your biggest example of that when Kevin Durant and James Harden and Kyrie Irving all got together. Well, I guess not Brooklyn. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say
it used to be New Jersey. Sorry,
Yeah, I knew what you meant, but Brooklyn is a huge one. You're seeing it. I mean, there's some weird stuff going on in the West. I won't even dive into that because then we'll go down a whole nother rabbit hole. But yeah, in the NFL. I don't know if you're going to get a Sam Darnold. That might be a little bit more of a diamond in the rough. Like a homegrown team.
We got to find it.
Homegrown team, sure. But can you find that quarterback like that? And because look at what Chicago has right now in Caleb Williams, because that's what's right in front of our faces right here. You're not going to be able to pay Caleb Williams Sam Darnold money and get him for cheap because he is making some miraculous plays like that. You're going to have to pay Caleb what Caleb's worth. And I'm totally fine with that. That's what the money's there for. That's what it's allotted for. And I shouldn't say it's going to work, but like we've already seen this year that it has gotten you some playoff time, and it should get even more playoff time next year. If things are going in the direction that it is. But if you're a team that doesn't have your number one guy right now, I don't think you can rely on that Hail Mary of, hey, we can find a guy like Seattle did that maybe has bounced around or maybe wasn't drafted super high and he's our diamond in the rough and turn him around. Like I wouldn't put all of your eggs in that basket on that. Not to make another egg reference.
Right. So Sam Darnold is the 20th highest cap hit among quarterbacks in the NFL at $13.4 million. Aaron Rodgers is right above him. I have kind of a, if you had to put your thinking cap on, and I'll give you my answer, that way it'll give you a second to think. If you were to think who's going to be maybe that next Sam Darnold, like maybe a guy that, there's a couple names that came to mind. One plays in Indianapolis with Anthony Richardson. Yeah. His name's been thrown around, but I really like this answer because I think we've seen a little bit more of the splash pan play with him. Malik Willis. I think Malik Willis could possibly be kind of that next Sam Darnold. Obviously, his name's getting thrown out a lot in free agency coming up and things of that nature. There's rumors of him even going to Miami now that, Hapley and I cannot remember the GM's name, but I know he came from Green Bay, are down in Miami. And they obviously have that Tua situation going on. They're going to need a quote unquote bridge quarterback, but just to think of a name or think of a guy maybe that could fit into this mold that Sam Darnold has kind of created to where it's like, a guy that maybe had a rough couple years coming out, maybe whether it's situation or injury or just the surrounding talent was not as lackluster. But I mean, if there's also a kind of a theme in the playoffs too, like Matt Stafford has the second biggest cap hit in the league, but outside of that, the next highest cap hit to make the playoffs was Justin Herbert. He's 9th. I mean, wow. Yeah, one of the top 9 highest paid quarterbacks is what made the playoffs. So
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I was just kind of a writing on the wall situation here.
Right. This is interesting. This is an article written by Nick Shook, around the NFL writer, back on December 18th of 2025. And it's a tier list of quarterbacks right now, and I did it just to kind of get some names, bouncing around in my head. And he has in tier 3 Sam Darnold and Aaron Rodgers, which kind of goes along with the list that you were saying as far as pay grade goes. But he has Sam Darnold above Aaron Rodgers. But you know who's also in this tier 3 of quarterbacks? Bo Nix, Patrick Mahomes, Caleb Williams, C.J. Stroud, Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts, which is a really odd third tier. I get that there's a little bit of
it has definitely changed now that Lamar's gotten paid and Patrick's gotten paid.
Yeah, it's timely based on what was going on this past December. I mean, you didn't have the best out of Patrick Mahomes. Caleb Williams is on the come up. He's not quite there yet. We thought C.J. Stroud was going to be a little bit different than he actually was in the playoffs. Bo Nix was healthy and on the come up as well. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens took a little bit of a downturn. Sorry, Grant, if you're still here. Grant said IDK Tua has a great chance to be the next Darnold. Please hear the sarcasm in that statement.
I don't know if there's a team that wants Tua. I think the only place that Tua can go and be successful is Indianapolis. But that's just me.
So, and then you have Jalen Hurts in there as well. And we know the Eagles maybe had a little bit of that championship hangover this year. That's a weird third tier. And to answer your question on who you think might be the next Sam Darnold, I don't think any of those guys, honestly, because either they've been there or they're going to get there. So, yeah, I don't know about this list for sure. I would go into this tier 4 I think it's unfair to say Joe Burrow because he's been to a Super Bowl
Yeah, no, he
already.
does not fit that Sam Darnold mold. Sorry,
or
pal.
Baker Mayfield, but I kind of like both of those guys. Who's in this tier 4 too is Bryce Young and Kirk Cousins. Oh gosh, I can't even think. Do we think Bryce Young turns it around?
No, I think he's going to get they exercised the 5th-year option the Panthers did for him, which was smart. That way they can kind of see what they actually have. But I think after this year, the quarterback class in 27 is so deep and it's very sought after. There's a lot of good names that I just don't see Bryce Young surviving.
I'd see Jackson Dart doing it if he wasn't with the New York Giants.
Really? Even with Harbaugh now?
Yeah,
I think they're the team you got to watch out for next year.
I didn't take that into account. Yeah,
I think they're
with
the team
Harbaugh
that you
there,
have to watch out for next season.
Still need to have moves be made. But you talked about Kirk Cousins. It could be Kirk Cousins. I don't know if he goes back to Minnesota.
Cleveland?
I want JJ McCarthy to do well. I'll still root for the kid. He's a hometown kid. I do have family ties to JJ McCarthy, distant, but after what we saw from the Vikings, do I think he can completely turn around and shut down the haters? I'm going to say no right now, but I'm not saying it's completely out of the picture. I mean, he got drafted high for a reason. I think he can show what he's shown all throughout college in the NFL. I just don't think he's there yet. I think that 1 year of injury really set him back. We didn't see the best out of him this year, but Bears fans, that week 1, he turned it on in the second half. And I think if he can somehow figure out a way to stay in that consistency, sure, but that's a stretch.
Yeah,
That's a stretch. I don't know if there's another Sam Darnold to really answer your question. I think you hit it on the head on the nail with Anthony Richardson. I think that's a good one. That's a good name. But other than that, I'm not seeing a whole lot of depth here anywhere else. Like that's why football is the way it is. You have to have that name quarterback in order for your team to do well. The Sam Darnolds of the world are no offense to Sam Darnold, they're flukes. Or maybe they're in the wrong situation, but do they get out of that wrong situation, or do they just get kind of shoved underneath the rug? Like Sam Darnold got lucky; he found a team that was changing head coach, making a couple different moves offensively and defensively. I mean, that Seattle defense, oh my God! Like, but he I'm not saying it was all luck and it's all the rest of his teammates, but he was privileged to be thrown into that better system than he was the previous 2 times. So.
Well, that's what good franchises do. They find players, they plug them into successful positions, and the rest is history. That's what makes Seattle so good, though, because they've nailed every draft class the last 2 or 3 years as well to set themselves up for this. So.
Real quick, how'd you like the halftime show? You mentioned Bad Bunny.
Oh yeah, I thought it was good. I
thought it was
I
awesome.
didn't understand a word, but I thought it was good. The vibes were high.
Yeah. It's club music.
Celebrity splashes in there too, which I liked.
Yeah, not the best halftime show I've ever seen, but good.
Yeah.
What are we talking about here? It was good. I was fine with it. Yeah, I like some Bad Bunny. I like some.
Bad Bunny.
I got to practice my AP Spanish that I haven't used since high school. Oh boy. Well, at 11 o'clock, stay with us. We're going to be joined by Blackhawks insider Charlie Roumeliotis, but stick around here because we are about to go into some basketball. Talk about your Chicago Bulls and Windy City Bulls on the rise. Dalton Cooper, Mike Napolitano.
If your idea of therapy involves a fishing rod, a tree stand, or a campfire, then you need American Outdoors Radio. Host John Cruz speaks your language, whether it's about the best lures, tracking game, or that one buddy who always forgets to bring the beer. John's got the tips to sharpen your aim, the hacks to pack lighter, and the stories to keep you entertained. Again, that's American Outdoor Radio with John Cruz. Saturdays at 7 a.m. on WRMN 1410. Or stream it at WRMN1410.com. Get ready to outfish, outhunt, and outcamp them all on American Outdoor Radio with John Cruz.
When disaster strikes, flood or fire, every second counts. At Emergency Construction Group, they specialize in immediate response and same-day service for any residential, commercial, or industrial emergency across the Chicagoland area. With over 30 years of experience, they've got the expertise, manpower, and equipment to handle any size loss fast. They follow strict IICRC guidelines to restore your property the right way, the first time. Their team values transparency, constant communication, and strong ethical standards because your peace of mind matters. Licensed, bonded, and insured, they're here for you 24/7, 365 days a year. Call 855-4ECG now. That's 855-432-4669. Or visit their website at emergencyconstructiongroup.com and let Emergency Construction Group put your life back together one step at a time. That's Emergency Construction Group. Your satisfaction is their passion.
When I never graduated from high school, I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed to come back to school. I felt accomplished, made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
My name is Ariel. I moved to the U.S. at 19. I spoke no English and I struggled finding job opportunities. Everything I have, I owe to the Adult Literacy Center and getting my high school diploma at age 22.
It was an honor helping you achieve your greatness. Now you're helping others achieve theirs. It inspires me.
When you graduate, they graduate. Find free and supportive adult education centers near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Are you looking to buy, sell, or trade something? Maybe clean out that attic or basement, or just make a little extra cash? Then don't miss Tradio on Out to Lunch with WRMN AM 1410. Weekdays at 12:30 p.m. Call in to let folks in the Fox River Valley know what you're looking for or what you've got to get rid of. It's easy, it's free, and it's a great way to connect with your community. Call in at 847-931-1410. That's 847-931-1410. If it's got to go, then let us know. Only on Tradio, here on WRMN AM 1410. When tragedy strikes, you need more than a lawyer, you need a voice. Romanucci and Blandon fight for justice in cases of personal injury, wrongful death, civil rights, and medical malpractice. With over $1 billion recovered, their results speak loud. Call 312-458-1000 or visit rblaw.net. That's 312-458-1000. Romanucci and Blandon, national impact, personalized care. No fee unless they win. Proud supporter of America's First Responders Fest.
Welcome in to AM 1410 WRMN's On the Rise. Dalton Cooper on the board, Mike Napolitano right here in the studio once again. And ladies and gentlemen, we are amidst a full week of All-Star festivities. We'll get into some AHL stuff in a second, but we want to talk about the NBA All-Star Game. And that's all the time we have for that because there are no Chicago Bulls in it. So that's fun. I'm sure you and Nick last week, I didn't catch the entire show. Of course, I was on the mic making sure we were broadcasting some hockey games, but I know you guys were probably talking about all the crazy trades that happened for the Bulls. Did you guys get a chance to break all that down?
Yeah, how we have like 27 second-round picks coming up.
Yeah, 27 second-round picks, and you got absolutely 0 first-round picks for pretty much everything you traded away, which was, Nikola Vukovic, Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu. Like, you didn't get a first-round pick for any of that. I understand Vooch was probably a little bit past prime, but Kobe White and Ayo? You're kidding me. You can't get any return for any of that. You waited too long on all of this, and you get nothing. It's like the scene in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. You get nothing. Yeah. Good day, sir. You're done. This is an atrocious organization right now. You can point the finger at anybody. You can point it at the Reinsdorf family. You can point it at AK. You can point it at I hate to point it at the coaching. I don't think the coaching is the biggest mistake here, but up and down this organization, what are the Bulls doing?
Yeah. I don't think they know. Like I was telling Nick too, like just because you're making moves doesn't mean you're making progress.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
well, look at this past summer. They made a bunch of moves, for cash considerations. I'm sure that went right back into getting I don't know, some funding for some of these great players that are coming up. Nick, I would love for him to be here today. Unfortunately, he's got other priorities. He'll be back hopefully next week, but I hope we could pick his brain because he gets to see the Windy City Bulls a lot more than we do night in and night out. And there's not a whole lot going on the farm is what I've been told. I mean, you had Mac McClung, who's not going to these all-star festivities this weekend for the dunk competition. Of all people, it was his dad that came out and made that announcement, which was kind of weird. Yeah. It's like maybe his agent or he should be the one to say it, but no, it was his dad. Okay, to each their own. That's fine. But then we're talking about no all-stars for the Bulls in this all-star game. You do have Modest Bazelis in the Rising Stars game, as you were mentioning.
Night, yeah.
But there's not a whole lot else to get excited about. What else is at that Windy City Bulls level that needs to come up? I mean, nothing.
Nothing really.
And it shows.
I mean, Essengay got hurt earlier this season, and his season was done, so that kind of cut that short. But yeah, I mean, outside of Mac McClung, you saw Yuki come up for a little bit. But I think everybody was talking more about the fact that he's 5'7" and playing in the NBA more than the fact that, like, oh, my God, he's this next great player. So I don't know. Not a lot to get excited about. I was telling Nick, I think the Bulls are officially the worst front office in Chicago sports.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not
maybe
even
in
close.
all sports right now? I don't know. I'd have to do a deeper dive into how some of these bad teams.
The Pirates might have something to say about that.
The Pirates are tough.
Yeah. And a couple, maybe some baseball teams out there. But
when you offer somebody season tickets for life, if they find a Paul Skeens card and that person turns down those season tickets, you might be doing something
looking
wrong.
a little tough.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, and maybe the Buffalo Bills fans might have something to say about that after that press conference with what's the owner's name? Is it Terry Pagula? That doesn't sound right.
No, do the Pagulas also own the Buffalo Bills?
Yeah, they own the Sabres and the Bills.
Sabres.
Yeah,
yeah, that's true.
Maybe
that's
after
true.
that situation, maybe there's a lot more rumbling of bad ownership in Buffalo. But
yikes,
yeah, man, it's
Buffalo Sabres turned it around though.
Yeah, they are. And we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But yeah, there's just not a lot of things to look forward to right now for Chicago. I mean, now that especially the Derrick Rose retirement night was a couple weeks ago, there's like literally nothing left to really talk about. I mean, from a basketball standpoint, you get behind the Illini. I mean, you got the college kids to look forward to. Did you know, by the way, that on average, the Illini are actually bigger as a roster, like from literally from a literal height standpoint than the Chicago Bulls are?
Whoa.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yes, that is literally a factual statement as it stands right now. Because they have 10 guards on the roster right now for the Chicago Bulls. It's just insane. There's literally no, like you said, no direction, no hope, no nothing. Like they got a bunch of second round picks and some expiring contracts that they traded expiring contracts for. So we'll see. It's going to be a good draft. You hope that it breaks. You hope it breaks the Bulls' way. Maybe they get lucky like Dallas did, or maybe they just do some collusion to where they get the first or second pick in the draft, and that becomes your franchise-changing player. But there's just not a lot to look forward to. They need to keep losing. I'll say that. Like they're finally losing. The Bulls are, which is great because I think heading into the break, they had finally dropped out of that 10 spot for the NBA for the standings, if you will. So they're officially out of the play-in game, which they needed to be a long time ago. Yeah, they're officially 11th. So
that's the best thing that has happened. You're still kind of in that no man's land.
Yeah.
This is what Bulls fans, Chicagoans have been preaching, myself included, for a long time, is this Bulls team really needed to decide, get off of the island and decide, are you going to be a consistent playoff team and actually build up here? We were talking about this earlier when we were talking about, do you bring in like a super team? You didn't have to actually bring in a super team. You just needed to bring in talent. It wouldn't have been homegrown.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have anything homegrown. Do you bring that talent in and actually compete year in and year out? Or do you completely sell the farm, tank? I hate to say that. You hate it in any league to see any team deliberately tank, but thus is how it is.
That's the way of success.
With sports in the 21st century. You're going to have to lose a lot in order to get some high draft picks to rebuild what you don't have. So they needed to drop their, like I said, they're still kind of in that no man's land. We spoke to Kendall Gill last year on the show, and he was talking about how he didn't think the Bulls needed that first overall pick in Cooper Flagg because you kind of already had a little bit of that in Modest Bazelis. I still tend to agree on that. I think that's true, but you still need some first round draft picks. And Kendall Gill wasn't denying that. He was saying, and the Bulls did have a first round draft pick. It was what, 11th?
Yeah.
So you had the 11th overall pick. That's still pretty low, and you're still not getting something that's going to be ready right away. That 11th round pick, Noah Singe, gets injured right away. So you really can't see what he's all about this year, even at the G League level. It's going to take another year. You need a first round draft pick going into 2026, and you don't have one.
And it's not like AK and this front office and staff have shown like a success of developing players either. You know what I mean? It's not like they've taken
that's a huge part too.
That 10th overall pick and turning them into, a top 100 NBA player, or even like a solidified starting player that is, will give you 15 a night or whatever the case. I mean, and to your point about tanking, you look at the top 2 teams in the league right now, the Pistons, who were god awful 2 years ago. I don't know if you remember, they were literally the laughing stock
3 years ago.
Yeah.
I think they set they beat their own record for how many losses in a season.
And then you have the OKC Thunder, which before they won an NBA title, they were a bottom dweller for 2 or 3 years. So the path to how to build these teams has been laid out. There are more than one example of this being the successful way to do it, to bottom out. The Spurs were terrible before they got Wemby, and then they start adding parts. They're second in the West right now. You know what I mean? So it's just like the Bulls and AK and this front office is just completely ignoring the path to success, or they're just trying to reinvent the wheel, which just seems kind of idiotic at this point.
Pretty much. And what is kind of idiotic, but like I said, has to happen is this team has to lose games, and that's exactly what they're doing. Like I said, they need to drop further in my eyes if they really want this to outright be a tank, because you and I were talking it during the commercial break. This Bulls team has not had an all-star on the team since 2002. I don't know if anybody knows.
No, 2022, 2023.
What did I say?
2002. You said 2002.
Oh, sorry.
2022,
I got my
2023. Yeah, DeMar DeRozan
2022. Yes.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Sorry.
I was like, oh my God.
It's bad, but it hasn't been that long. Sorry. 2022. I was trying to enunciate the year there, but 2022 was the last star, and it was DeMar DeRozan.
Right.
I mean, when you had a guy who was even a little bit on the back nine here in Chicago was your last star, you didn't have anybody else representing you after that. I mean, this has been now 4 years of disgusting basketball, basically, for lack of a better term. You've made it to the play-in round, sure, but you haven't had any all-stars on the team. So what does that tell me? You're not actually real about it. You're not actually going for it. And now you really aren't. A 6-game losing streak for the Bulls. They lose to Miami, who they beat this is a weird thing. We were talking about this.
They played like 3 straight games.
Yeah.
Well, that was due to like the delay. So remember they had the condens or the humidity on the floor from the ice or whatever.
Yeah. So I guess one of the freezers broke for the ice, the refrigeration system for the Blackhawks. So they had to postpone a Miami game. That ended up being a game at home against Miami. Bulls lost 116-113. Game in Miami on January 31st, 125-118. Bulls get the win. That was their last win. And then they proceed to lose to Miami in Miami, 134-91. A 131-115 loss to Milwaukee in Milwaukee on February 3rd. February 5th, 123-107. Toronto takes it to the Bulls in Toronto. 136-120. Denver beats the Bulls at the United Center. And then 2 more away games out east. Brooklyn and Boston, 115 and 124-105 respectively. That's a 6-game losing streak. But if you look at the last, if you look at the last 10 games, the Bulls have won 1 game. That was that Miami game in their last 10 games. They previously lost to the Lakers, the Pacers, and then that Miami game that I was talking about. So usually I'd be mad about going 1-9 in your last 10. with all the trades that have been made, not pleased with not getting a high return, of course, but I'm pleased with the fact that the Bulls are losing games. You have to at this point. This has to be a full-on tank if you want anything to change in Chicago. You can no longer rely on, oh, Michael Jordan played here. Oh, look at that Derrick Rose ceremony we had, and he's a legend, and we had him here, and despite the injuries, he was the youngest MVP. And I love Derrick Rose. I love Michael Jordan, but it's 2026, not 2006. 2026. Can we get a winning team on the court here in Chicago? What else? It's one of the most storied franchises in basketball history, and you can't muster up a superstar in the last 4 years. You can't muster up an all-star in the last 4 years. You can't make it past the play-in round, and God knows how long. I mean, it's been, 5 years, 6 years? Since the Bulls, actually, I think it's been even longer than that. When was the last time the Bulls were actually legitimately in the playoffs?
I want to say 2018.
I thought it was the Rose era. Let me double check that.
I got you. Keep going.
But, I mean, when you even look at, we talked about how you have to sell off the farm as well. The Windy City Bulls, a 126-103, just in the month of February, a 126-103 loss to Greensboro, a 143-123 loss to the Long Island Nets, a 133-127 win over those Long Island Nets when you play the second of the back-to-back at home on the 6th. A loss 135-131 against the Grand Rapids Gold, but then you beat the Gold on the back-to-back of the home. Both of those were home games.
21-22, by the way. 2021, they finished 6th in the East. And then that's where they officially
You're right. I do remember that. I do remember that year. But that was, I think, around the time, because it was around COVID that they were readjusting to do the play-in round stuff.
Yep.
But so
before that, it was
2016,
2017, and they lost in the first round that year as well.
Who'd they play in 2016, 2017?
In the playoffs?
Yeah, do we know? Does that show you? 2021 was no, it wasn't the Celtics. Who'd they play? I'm drawing a major blank on Bulls playoff history right now, because the only thing I have in my head is the Rose years and that's because we just had...
they lost to the Celtics in 2017 playoffs.
Okay, so that one was the Celtics.
Yep.
2021, who was 2021? That would have been...
They got beat by the Milwaukee Bucks.
Ah, yeah.
They
I do
lost
remember
the first
that
round 4-1.
Do remember that. Okay. All right. Yeah, that makes sense. So the Windy City Bulls, 2 wins in their 5 games played here in the month of February. This is, though, where I will say, don't keep losing, boys. Start winning, because this is the farm. This is where things need to develop. This is where things need to get better.
For Windy City, you mean? Okay.
For Windy City.
I was like, Mike, we just agreed that the Chicago Bulls they shouldn't win a game the rest of the year, regardless of the situation.
Yeah, no. But this is where I will say you need to win some games, because you look at that development that you talk about, and this organization as a whole has not been able to develop.
It's really funny because the Windy City is literally 8th in the Eastern Conference in the G League. So they are literally right on the bridge. They are the last team in the playoffs. They're 10-9. So
interesting how the apple doesn't fall far from the tree on that one, huh?
Yeah.
But we'll see. Do you think it has to do with? I mean, we talked about development, and I said the finger was to point all over this organization at every level. Do you think it has to do with coaching on the development side of things?
No, I think it starts at the front office. I think it starts with ownership. It starts with the front office, because it's not all starts at the top. You know what I mean? Like, a coach can only do so much, especially if he's only given players that are maybe not the most talented players ever either. So
yeah,
I think it's about fit. That's kind of the GM's job, is to make sure that the players are married to the coach's system, that they're gonna fit well in the system, they're gonna play well in the system. Like, I don't think this is a Billy Donovan problem.
Right. So you have Billy Donovan Jr. at the NBA level. You have Billy Donovan III at the G League level. And the risk you run with that is, they're probably going to pair off of each other and run a similar system, so that your NBA and your G League affiliate are in sync and speaking the same language, same expectations. You know what the big pro club wants. Problem is, if it's not getting the job done, it's going to collapse on every level. So it's either a really good thing or a really bad thing. There's no middle ground, but we'll see. I have some hope, I think. I don't know.
Well, hopefully you had more hope from the AHL All-Star game.
That was, in fact, the case. I want to give a big shout out to our friend of the show, Dana Gray, because he helped us out getting press and getting us in there as far as WRMN. Because as WRMN, you folks know, we have a lot to cover. We cover both the Chicago Wolves and the Rockford Ice Hogs here. I got to speak to all 6 representatives. We had posted a graphic that there were 5 representatives, and then last minute, they did add our buddy and former guest of the show, Justin Robidas. And I got to speak to him, catch up with him in person.
I thought they added Cini. I think Cini was the.
Oh, you're right. Excuse me. Yeah, it was.
No, you're good. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No. I should know. Robidas, we're buddies now.
Nice.
He followed me back on Instagram.
There you go.
But no, the Wolves were all great to speak to. The Ice Hogs were all great to speak to. I did make a little bit of a mistake. I was telling you. I was talking to Nick Lardis as if he wasn't already at the NHL level. He did get sent down, so I guess you do kind of media-wise, just to mind your P's and Q's, and have to speak to him kind of that way, because there is no expectation that he goes right back up to Chicago. But I think Nick Lardis is headed right back to Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, he's played well when he has had time, especially between him and Oliver Moore. I definitely think they should be playing together. They played well in Rockford. You saw some splashes of both of them playing well together in the NHL level, so I think that could be a nice little third-line pair. I don't know who you're going to have play center, but just to have those 2 on the wings. You'll have some great speed. I think some good puck handling. The only thing, I think you got to have somebody playing center that's a little bit bigger, just because those 2 guys are a little bit undersized as far as height and weight. Because Oliver Moore is probably like $170 soaking wet, and that's
speedy, fast.
Yeah, he's quick.
Light. Yeah. Centers are a little bit of an issue for the Blackhawks right now. Maybe when you get Frondell in here, that helps. But yeah, Nick Lardis. The one question I did ask him that was great in that interview was, how have you been able to just elevate your game at every single level you play? You set a record in the OHL last year. You come into Rockford. You have a great start to your season. You get called up to the Blackhawks. Granted, that was because of the Bedard and Nazar injuries at the time, but he even, did well at that NHL level, and he attributes it mostly just to his confidence, trusting his style of play. And you'll hear the answer from himself when we post it. Be sure to check in on all of our social medias. I posted, I think, 5 or 6 of the interviews that I did. I did 10 interviews in 2 days, so we have a lot of content coming out. Not to mention all the live streams that I was able to do from my Meta glasses. We were in the tunnel watching some of these athletes take the ice, and I mean, you may be sitting at home going, "Oh, it's the AHL and not the NHL," and I'm more dialed into the Olympics. That's fine. That's great. The Olympics are phenomenal. This is going to be one of the best Olympics that we are having. But this AHL class of superstars, be ready, because one of the few gentlemen that I didn't get a chance to speak to, I'll be honest with you, I didn't even see his name on the roster, and that's mea culpa. That's my bad. I didn't see his name on the roster until day 2, and by that time, he was no longer in his stall in the locker room, and I didn't get a chance to speak to him. Lake Barrington product, Quinn Hudson, who is the brother of Calder Trophy winner Lane Hudson. And that family, that might be the next Jack Hughes family. That might be another set of American brothers that comes up and, I don't know, dons the sweaters for Team USA. That might be a stretch, but I mean, a Calder Trophy for Lane last year. He is playing up in Canada for the Canadians, but he's American boy. And I know some friends of mine that skate with them at Lake Barrington, and they told me even before Lane Hudson won the Calder, they said, "Look out, he's the next Cale Makar." And I said, "Oh, that's some big shoes to fill, some big skates to fill." And they said, "Nope, we're sticking by it." And boy, oh boy, that Hudson family. Quinn had a funny. He took the stick in one hand on a breakaway and kicked his stick. You know that move where like you take your bottom hand off and you just kick the stick to shoot the puck. On a breakaway. He didn't score, but was kind of messing around in an all-star game. The Ice Hogs themselves showed out. Brett Cini, we got a chance to speak to him. Great guy. Maybe I'll reach out to him. Maybe we get the chance to talk to him towards the end of the season here. Rockford's been having a little bit of a tough season, and you heard that from the consensus of everybody in Rockford. Worrisome that they'll make the playoffs or not, but the fans, they're loud and they show up regardless. They've got some diehard fans. Of course, a lot of the other Central members, even though they were all playing on the same team in that All-Star game because it was by division, they got booed, especially the Wolves. There's that rivalry there. So it was funny to see, guys are going to lunch with each other and playing with each other that they normally wouldn't, and yet they're still getting booed because they're the rivals. We spoke to Bradley Nadeau, and we spoke to Dominic Fensori. Dominic Fensori won that award last year for his character on and off the ice. We spoke to him in the interview about that. So, I mean, just a really classy group of individuals, young too, and hungry. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, the Wolves are playing well. They're second in the Central right now. Like you said, Rockford is being battle tested. They are currently sixth in the Central. They are about 9 points out of a playoff spot. So hopefully the second round of the season is a good turnaround for them. Hopefully a little bit healthy. I think if any team needed the All-Star break to maybe regroup and get things situated and straightened out, I think it's Rockford. So we'll see if they can definitely turn around. I think it's going to start with defense and goaltending on that end.
That is true. Yeah, and we've seen great goaltending out of Drew Comesso. We were actually looking to talk to him. Maybe I'll reach back out to Dana Gray because his shutout and first ever NHL win got a little bit overshadowed by one Bears versus Packers playoff game. I don't know what happened in that game. I guess rightfully so, getting a little bit shadowed because it was a great night for Chicago sports that night, if you remember, as a whole. But we would still like to talk to Drew Comesso at some point here. We will be talking to a Blackhawks goaltender next weekend, and I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag just yet. Maybe I'll save that for the end of the show or when we talk to Charlie. But I will say one more thing going into Rockford and those whole festivities. I want to say a big thank you to our buddy Richie, who does photography. He got some really great shots of us. Man. I said thank you to Dana Gray already. Thank you to the Rockford Ice Hogs organization and the AHL. Rockford gets the rep that it gets sometimes, but they put on a great show and that community. It was fun being up in Rockford for 2 days. Everybody that we met there, Jim Leo, Matt Hall, and then also
it's a great barn.
Ethan Wiles, I do some broadcasts with him. Great barn for sure. That BMO Center is a really nice rink. And shout out to both Hannah Arbitman for being my camera lady for most of it. She's a professional. She's awesome. And shout out to my mom, who was our camera lady for AM 1410 WRMN. It was so funny. Everybody's like, "You brought your mom? That's so cool." And I was like, she's credentialed, don't worry. And yeah, she's going to take some pictures for us. She got some amazing shots that we still have yet to share. Yeah. She's still going through them. She got so many pictures.
Oh, I bet.
So I can only imagine what Richie's life is like going through those thousands of shots. But stick around here, guys. We've got more hockey talk, and we're jumping up to the big leagues, even though they are on pause because they're not having an all-star game. They're sending NHLers to the Olympics. It's already in full swing here. And ladies and gentlemen, the USA ladies we have to talk about as well. We've got Charlie Roumeliotis, the insider of the Chicago Blackhawks, joining us right when we return. Dalton Cooper, Mike Napolitano, right here on AM 1410 WRMN.
Get ready for an unforgettable night out in downtown St. Charles at O-Shows, where live music, dining, and entertainment come alive. Visit the iconic Arcada Theater at 105 East Main Street and experience the venue voted Chicagoland's premier entertainment destination. Whether you're enjoying a headliner concert, dining at Rock and Ravioli, or hitting the speakeasy at Club Arcada, O-Shows creates memories. Tickets and event info at oshows.com, and you can call 630-962-7000. That's 630-962-7000. Make your reservation, bring your friends, and plan your next event at O-Shows. Live music, dining, and entertainment, all in one place. Visit oshows.com and join the fun tonight. Supporter of the America's First Responder Fest.
Your hometown radio station since 1949. We are WRMN AM 1410. Elgin time, 11 o'clock.
Breaking news at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. 5 European countries say they now know how Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny died in prison 2 years ago.
The foreign ministers of the UK, France, Germany, Sweden, and the Netherlands say that samples from the body of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny determined he was poisoned by the Kremlin in February 2024 with toxin derived from the skin of poisoned dart frogs. His widow, Yulia Navalnaya.
Now, it's not just words. It's scientific proof that my husband, Alexei Navalny, was poisoned.
Audio courtesy of Sky. At the time, Navalny was serving a 19-year sentence at an Arctic penal colony, a sentence believed to have been politically motivated. I'm Donna Warder.
A key measure of inflation fell to a nearly 5-year low last month.
The cost of goods and services didn't rise as fast in January as they did a year ago. Overall inflation dropped to 2.4%, not too far from the Federal Reserve's 2% target. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports gas prices fell more than 3% last month, while grocery prices ticked higher.
That is Greg Cluxon reporting. Republican Congressman Brian Stile of Wisconsin says Congress is working to cut the red tape, hopefully make housing easier to build and more affordable.
We're about 6 million housing units short in the United States. This is one of the biggest drivers that's driving up costs for families who are trying to get into their first home or a bigger home as their family grows.
GOP strategist Aaron McGuire emphasizes the significance of Congress passing the SAVE Act.
I think that this SAVE Act is a massive thing for the country right now. I don't know why anybody would believe, unless you're Kamala Harris, who can't even put into words why you would need an ID to vote, why we wouldn't want to secure our elections with the most basic thing.
And McGuire spoke with the Salem Radio Network about the voter integrity issue. More from townhall.com.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-583-0141. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
or call 800-583-0141. That's 800-583-0141.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Law enforcement investigating the disappearance of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie's mother sealed off a road near Nancy Guthrie's home in Arizona late last night.
A parade of sheriffs and FBI vehicles, including forensic vehicles, passed through the roadblock that was set up about 2 miles from the house. The county sheriff's department said the activity was part of the Guthrie case, but it said further information was unavailable since it was a joint investigation with the FBI.
That is Ken Lorman reporting. The 84-year-old Guthrie was reported missing on February 1st. Authorities have expressed concerns that Guthrie's health could be an issue as she needs daily medication. She's also said to have a pacemaker and has dealt with high blood pressure and heart issues in the past. Investigators say they have studied surveillance video, sorted through thousands of tips, and submitted DNA and other evidence for lab analysis. Breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. Well, that box of chocolates you may be sharing with your loved one this Valentine's Day is not much cheaper this year, despite the fact that cocoa prices have fallen nearly 70% since last Valentine's Day.
Market researcher Data Assembly says chocolate prices at American retail stores rose 14% between January 1st and the first week of this month compared to the same period a year ago. That's on top of a 7.8% increase for the same period last year. Europe has seen even steeper price hikes. And if shoppers are still willing to pay higher prices, candy companies not inclined to lower them. Rich Thomason reporting.
The San Francisco teacher strike is over. San Francisco teachers reached a tentative agreement on Friday with the school district to end their walkout, the first such strike in nearly 50 years in the city by the Bay. San Francisco Unified School District Superintendent Maria Sue made the announcement Friday. More from Town Hall.
Now available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com is the book called DUI Jury Trial, which is the true story of a truck driver in Illinois who was charged with driving under the influence of alcohol. Not only was he facing a revocation of his driver's license, but also a lifetime disqualification of his CDL, which would prevent him from ever driving a semi-truck again. This book includes backstories of the truck driver, the lawyers that defended the case, and the DUI expert witness who analyzed the case and then testified at trial as to the proper protocol procedures of the field sobriety tests as well as the breathalyzer test. This nonfiction novel also includes the actual court transcript from the jury trial, a courtroom showdown in which the final verdict would determine the fate of the defendant's livelihood. The book DUI Jury Trial is now available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
Welcome back to AM 1410 WRMN. You're listening to On the Rise with myself, Mike Napolitano, and on the board here, Dalton Cooper. We are now joined by a man who has been on the show before, but he's returning once again, not only to talk Blackhawks, but now talk a little bit of Olympics as well, as we are now deep into the Olympic tournament, both on the men's and women's side. We gave him a nice intro last time. This time I'll keep it a little bit more brief and just say he's one of the best Media League softball players I have seen. Please welcome the insider of the Chicago Blackhawks, WGN's very own Charlie Roumeliotis.
Wow, that might actually be a better intro than the last one.
I didn't say anything about your hair this time, though. I'm so sorry.
No offense taken.
Charlie, thank you for joining us once again here today. And I want to start off with a little bit of Blackhawks before we get into the Olympics, just because we kind of left off on a little bit of a sour note. The Blackhawks have been struggling a little bit as of late. Ran into maybe some hot teams, Dalton's very own Columbus Blue Jackets, who are under new coaching. So you just kind of ran into them at the wrong time. Maybe some injuries played into some of the slumps throughout the season here, but what is it going to take for this Blackhawks team to kind of get back on track and maybe use this Olympic break as a little bit of rest to get right here?
Yeah, I think the Hawks had one eye on vacation in that Columbus game, because I know a lot of guys had some early flights the next day to go to warm locations. And man, the Hawks they got off to such a strong start and were obviously played themselves into the playoff conversation. And then Connor Bedard got hurt with the shoulder injury, and a few games later, Frank Nazar. And I think that was tough for them to handle in the moment, even though they did bounce back after the holiday break with a really strong, 7 or 8 games before things kind of took another turn. It felt like everything was just clicking on all cylinders, and it was difficult for the Blackhawks to refine that magic when Bedard and Nazar did return to the lineup. And so hopefully this break came at a really good time for Chicago, because they had ended a 21 games and 40-day stretch going into the Olympic break. And hopefully they come out of this break feeling pretty refreshed for the stretch run, even though they're likely not going to be flirting with that playoff line like they were, around December and the Christmas break.
No, absolutely. And we all know, especially the hockey folks and in your world especially, that American Thanksgiving holiday is kind of that benchmark to where, it was like 80% of the teams that are in the playoff spot when that time rolls around are usually playoff teams come April and May and everything. And I think the Blackhawks really, like you said, were right on that line or right outside that line. But fast forward, we were kind of looking for the future here. The one name that comes to mind when I look at this roster, Charlie, is Tyler Bertuzzi. He's having a career year, basically, by any stretch of the imagination. His career high in goals is 30. That was back in Detroit in 21-22. He's currently got 25 this season. Highly anticipate him breaking that. He's got a couple more years of term at $5.5 million. Great value, great player. Do you see maybe a possibility of him being trade bait? Because with the Olympics going on, it makes the trade deadline a little wonky. I think we have a week of regular NHL play, and then the trade deadline is passed. So could you see the Blackhawks maybe making a move with Tyler Bertuzzi and maybe getting some value back?
It's interesting you say that because you're the second person to ask me that in the last week, and his name honestly hasn't even crossed my mind as someone to unload, mainly because I think the Hawks are at a point now where they want to start surrounding the younger players with some talent and not continue to subtract from the roster where there's just nothing there. Now, the pending UFAs are obviously a different story. Like if Jason Dickinson and Connor Murphy aren't going to be here beyond this year, then obviously you want to flip them for assets. But a guy like Tyler Bertuzzi and Teuvo Teravainen, guys that they signed to middle-term deals, they kind of envision them being, dependable players to play with a Connor Bedard, to play with a Frank Nazar. So that way they're not trying to figure it out on their own. And while it's probably unlikely to expect Tyler Bertuzzi to match the production that he has this year and the next coming years, I do think the Blackhawks and Jeff Blashill specifically, because there's just such a trust factor between Bertuzzi and Blashill, I think they have unlocked some sort of, magic with Tyler Bertuzzi. And so I wouldn't personally not move him. I would keep him to make sure that some of these younger players do have dependable players to play with. Now, having said that, the counter argument is there are going to be some young players that are cracking the lineup soon, like Anton Frundell and Roman Kanserov and Nick Lardis potentially next year on a more full-time basis. And so you want to make sure that there are spots available. But I would make sure that those young players are fully ready for those spots before you start thinking about moving dependable veterans that are helping those young players right now.
No, 100%. And just to give you context, too, I'm sure you know this, but Tyler Bertuzzi shooting 21% this year. So it's just insane to your point.
Pretty good.
When he was signed, they were talking about Tyler Bertuzzi getting those garbage goals for the Blackhawks and being that pest in front of the net. And there was a couple of stretches in there, a couple of years where it was tough for him to put up any numbers at all because you couldn't get to the net. But you're starting to see it form and come to fruition now. So that's great as far as Blackhawks go. We do have a little bit of a break in the season, and we don't have a whole lot of Blackhawks being sent to the Olympics. Do you think, maybe looking forward before we even get into this year's Olympics, I think it's almost certain with how close he was this year, although maybe it sounded like how far he was this year, that Connor Bedard is a shoo-in for the 2030 Olympics. But we also saw Frank Nazar, Alex Vlasic get invited to the USA camp. We also see Spencer Knight kind of in the running there. Do you think that any of those players or any Blackhawks make it to represent their countries other than just Teuvo Teravainen, who's currently on Team Finland? Do you think any of them make it in 2030?
Yeah, I do. I think they're going to be a pretty good representative. There's going to be a handful of representatives for the Blackhawks, I feel, in the next Olympics because you got guys like Connor Bedard, and you mentioned Vlasic and Nazar. We'll see where they stand in the thick of that race. But also, like, you think about some of the younger guys that are going to be coming, as far as Anton Frundell, like he could be on Team Sweden's roster in 4 years, or Roman Kanserov on Russia. Now, I know Russia has not been able to participate in these Olympics, and they weren't able to participate in the Four Nations because of all that stuff that's going on. But if Russia is eligible, Roman Kanserov could be a guy also to kind of play his way onto the Russian roster. So I do think that, and Spencer Knight, you mentioned too, like, man, if Jeremy Swayman didn't bounce back from the year that he had last year, I think Spencer Knight probably should have been the third goaltender. But because Jeremy Swayman really, he's been one of the best goaltenders in the NHL, even though he kind of got off to a little bit of a slow start this year, he's been one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. And so I think Spencer Knight on the next Olympic team is probably going to be on it.
No, 100%. The Blackhawks are leading the league in penalty kill this season so far at percentage. I think they're right around 86%, and Spencer Knight is definitely a big reason why they're having that much success on the PK. Other kind of hot topic, or I guess hot take that I had, is that I think secretly a little bit of the Blackhawks organization is kind of happy that Bedard didn't get picked and some of the other players, just because they would like to have that reset, or just, to give those guys an extended time off, as far as, obviously you mentioned Bedard coming back from injury and things of that nature. Have you heard any rumblings of, like, I don't want to say like animosity, but like maybe a sigh of relief that they are only sending Teuvo Teravainen to the Olympics? Just to, obviously we saw what happened with Kevin Fiala yesterday, and just to, obviously from a Blackhawks standpoint, they're glad that they're not going to really have to deal with that?
I have not. I think it would have been fine either way. Like, I think the fact that he's not going, you can exhale a little bit and know that Bedard, especially coming off that shoulder injury, has a couple weeks now to just make sure that he gets 100% right, because it sounds like after the Olympic break, Connor Bedard is going to start taking faceoffs again, and so maybe he'll start feeling more like himself. But on the flip side, man, I look at Macklin Celebrini participating in the Worlds over the summer, playing with Sidney Crosby and Nathan McKinnon, and what an experience that must have been, even though they got upset in the tournament. But looking at Macklin Celebrini right now, like, gosh, that's got to be such a valuable experience for him to be around all those winners and to play some high-level hockey, so that way he can kind of carry over what he's learning back to San Jose. And I think that would have been really valuable for Connor Bedard as well, not just the on-ice experience, but looking at how those guys carry themselves off the ice. I don't know if you guys had a chance to read the Connor Bedard or Connor McDavid Players Tribune article that got released right before the Olympics. It was such an amazing, well-written piece, and he was talking about his experience at the Four Nations tournament, that he found himself inside the locker room looking around the stalls, and he's like, my gosh, I'm like Sidney Crosby. This was my childhood idol, and I'm standing right next to him. And the one thing that he said stood out to him was how calm all the players were inside the locker room, like Brad Marchand and Sidney Crosby. And like he's a sponge. Like, even though he's the best player in the world, he's trying to learn, what it takes to win a Stanley Cup, because he hasn't done it yet. And so I think even him at that age and what he's done in the NHL so far, he was still trying to learn how those guys carry themselves and the demeanor that those players have. So I think either way, long-winded answer to your question, but I think either way would have been helpful for Connor Bedard. Like, the rest is certainly important for him right now, but I think the experience to be at the Olympics and just being a sponge around all those great players also would have been equally valuable.
It's crazy because you've got a lot of the Canadians that look up to Sidney Crosby, and he's still there. And then we'll get into the U.S. side of things. A lot of those players look up to Patrick Kane, who, of course, just missed it this year, even with all the milestones that he's been hitting. I would have been wearing my USA Kane jersey, but I don't like to wear it a whole lot. Not to brag, it's signed, But Blake Cowell jumps in the chat, our buddy, and he says USA, USA, USA. And it is Valentine's Day. We love Charlie. We love Dalton. But we got to talk about not just the red, but the white and the blue. We've got the ladies in this USA tournament that it looked like 5 goals was the standard for Team USA women. They said, for FCC reasons, hold my Gatorade, and we're going to go up to 6 against Mike's Italian ladies. So 6-0, the final score in the playoff quarterfinals yesterday. This United States women's team has been absolutely rolling, Charlie. Is the gold medal all but locked up at this point for the USA on the ladies' side?
I would love to say yes, but it feels like when USA Canada always plays, it's a nervy game, and I can't remember whether it was the last Olympics or the Olympics prior to that, where I remember staying up really late, and I think the game went to like overtime or double overtime, whatever it was, and it was just exhilarating hockey. And so
that's 2018,
in these one and done tournaments, it's really hard to, like, you can run into a hot goaltender and you can have 45 shots on goal, but the goaltender makes 44 saves, and you can allow 20 shots on goal, but 2 of those find the back of the net. And in a one and done tournament, like, that's the difference. And so I hesitate to grant them the goal, but they are clicking on all cylinders. They're 5-0. I think they're outscoring their opponents 26-1 in those 5 games. Yep. So I think that's going to work. But also, I know Team Canada is dealing with the injury to their captain, Marie-Philippe Poulin. I don't know what her status is for the rest of the tournament, but if she, I don't even remember if she has returned from that. I wasn't able to watch the last game, but I think she suffered an injury early on, and so if she can't return from that, that's obviously a major advantage for the U.S. This
U.S. team, even going head-to-head with Canada, a 5-0 shutout. Caroline Harvey has been the talk of Team USA, just absolutely dominating. And you mentioned the outscoring their opponents. I'm just even looking at the shot totals. I mean, we're looking at 50-1 in like shot totals on most of these games. It's just insane to see the dominance there. But yes, you can't count Canada out.
Yeah, just to let you know, too, Claire Hanna on Twitter did confirm that Marie will be back in Canada's lineup for their quarterfinal matchup against Germany. So just to let you know,
so that's a big boost for Canada, obviously, because they looked a little concerned about what the status of her was going to be for the rest of the Olympics. But if she is, I mean, we'll see what level of how much she's dealing with an injury and what percentage she is. But that's big for Team Canada, because I feel like not only what she brings on the ice, but she's like their lightning rod off of it as well.
No, 100%. She's definitely the emotional leader. She definitely has that pulse of the team. I had a hot take on the men's side that I really want to get your thoughts on. So obviously there's a lot of, there was a lot of controversy to say about who was selected for Team USA and who wasn't. So I kind of have this theory that if Team USA has, they look great so far in their one game. They do play today at 2:00 our time. But if they get to, a quarterfinal or a semifinal game and they find themselves down 2-1 in a third period, just maybe the lack of experience and just the lack of goal scoring in that regard. Do you think that Bill Guerin could ever maybe be on the hot seat if this team runs into a scoring issue just because of the fact they left Jason Robertson and Cole Caulfield at home? Obviously, they had an idea of how they wanted to build this roster, but it was kind of a head scratcher to leave two of the top scoring Americans in the NHL over the past 2 years kind of at home.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it deserves conversation if the Americans just don't have enough offense to compete with Canada. Because if you rewind to the Four Nations, the gold medal tournament, I believe Kyle Connor was a healthy scratch in the game. And it's like he's one of the best goal scorers in the NHL, and Team USA just stapled him to the bench. And so when you get into an overtime game where all you need is one goal and you got Kyle Connor sitting on your, not even dressed for the game, like I remember Team USA, like they got flack for that. Now I think that was more of a Mike Sullivan decision than it was a Bill Guerin, obviously, because Connor was on the team. And that's kind of been my argument too with Team Canada. And my feeling, now this was pre Connor Bedard injury, so I was kind of banging my fist on the table that he should be part of Team Canada's roster, because what if you think about that Four Nations gold medal tournament in overtime, how many chances did Austin Matthews get in that overtime that he could have ended it, but Jordan Binnington robbed him? I think it was 3 different times.
Yeah.
If any of those chances go in, Team USA wins that tournament, and Team Canada is looking at themselves like, we needed one more goal. Now, what if that same scenario plays out in the Olympics this year? Team Canada is needing one goal, or they fall short by a goal, and you have Connor Bedard sitting at home. That is more inexcusable to me than, we left off, whoever it was Sam Bennett originally, because we wanted Cirelli and we left Bedard at home, and then they end up needing a goal. So I'm not saying you want to put together an all-star team, but you do want to make sure that you're covering your bases as far as if you need offense, you have that there. And so if Team USA goes into this tournament and they advance in the qualifiers and they go to the semis and, hopefully the gold medal, and they fall a goal or two short, that noise is going to be pretty loud when you got guys like Jason Robertson, Cole Caulfield, Alex DeBrincat sitting at home, and they're among the NHL's best as far as putting the puck in the net.
Kind of going off of Dalton's question and Charlie, your answer to it is, this was kind of surprising that you have Jason Robertson and Cole Caulfield at home. I definitely see your point with Connor Bedard and the Canada's perspective if the tables do turn. But one guy that they did add to this roster, and now what kind of perplexes me about this roster is you see those lack of those top American scorers, and you think, okay, well, they're just building a tough team. And I'm not taking anything away from the guys that are on this current USA roster too, but the construction of this roster looks similar to what we saw in the Four Nations. But guess what? there was fighting allowed in the Four Nations. And I love all the memes that came out on day one of the Olympic tournament, at least for the men's side, that was like, all right, guys, remember, this is the Olympics. There's no fighting. And sure enough, within the first couple minutes of that first game, there's fighting, right? But one guy that was left off, that was a huge scorer of the Four Nation roster that they did bring into this Olympic tournament was Tage Thompson. He scores his first goal back in that first game against Latvia. It was actually assisted by Jack Eichel, which was the first time that Jack Eichel has ever assisted a Tage Thompson goal or vice versa. In the 3 years that they played in Buffalo together, what's crazy is that never once were they on that same stat line, assist and goal. So finally connecting, I guess, over in Milan rather than in Buffalo. But this USA team, we saw them get off to a little bit of a rocky start, and then they found their footing. With Tage Thompson on this team, you get a little bit of that added scoring. But like I said, a little bit of a rocky start with Latvia. Do you think that maybe some of those cracks that we're showing are a little too much to go up against a juggernaut like Canada? I kind of asked this question even to Frank Nazar, was, USA versus Canada, and his response was, we'll see if they match up against each other. I think it's almost a given that these two teams are going to find their way to each other in this tournament, with how hungry they both are to go head-to-head against each other. But do you think this United States team is built to withstand a juggernaut like Canada, with it being a little bit more of a physical USA team? And, I mean, I don't know. They didn't come out the gates hot like against Latvia, and maybe that's first game jitters, or maybe there's a little bit of an issue. They turned it on later. Don't get me wrong. Dalton's giving me a look over here, but they turned it on later. I was a little worried at the beginning.
They had 2 disallowed goals, man.
I know, but disallowed is disallowed.
It's an interesting question. Now, I will say, I don't put too much stock into the early games, especially against some of the more bottom feeders, because it's the early tournament games are essentially trying to roll through some line combinations just to get used to, like, for example, Team Canada, we saw them put out the line combinations where it was Connor McDavid first line, Nathan McKinnon second line center, Sidney Crosby third line center, and then Sam Reinhart was on the fourth line. I'm like, well, that's surely not going to be the lines when we're in the semifinals, right? Like, they're going to want Sid playing top 6 minutes. They're going to want Sam Reinhart playing top 6 minutes. And so I think with Team USA, they're probably just ironing out some things like, hey, let's roll with some line combinations early on that if we have to go to later on in the tournament, it's not the first time that they're playing together. But your general overall question is interesting because, like, if you're running both teams, like if you're running Team Canada, if you're running Team USA, are you crafting your roster based on, like, how do we match up? If you're Team Canada, it's like, how do we match up against Team USA? Or if you're Team USA, do you say, all right, how do we match up against Team Canada, and how do we craft a roster to go against them? Or are you saying, let's put together our best roster and let the chips fall where they may? Like, let's let Team Canada have to play our game, right? And so there is some sort of balance where you do want to look at, okay, Team Canada's just absolutely loaded down the middle, and they got speed on their roster. The power play is perhaps the best power play that we will ever see as far as a 5-man unit group, with 2 top 5 players in the world, perhaps the best defensive player in the world ever in Cale Makar. And so, like, you do want to make sure that you have players that can defend them, but you don't want to swing the pendulum too far where you're only crafting a roster based on another team. Like, you still want to stick to your identity. And part of the identity that the USA didn't have in the Four Nations is Quinn Hughes on the back end because of the injury. I mean, that guy is essentially Team Canada's Cale Makar. Like, he plays like 35 minutes a night. Like, the Blackhawks saw Minnesota a few games ago before the Olympic break, and he was on the ice. Like, I don't even think he took a break during the game. I mean, every time I looked on the ice, he'd be like, there's Quinn Hughes on the ice playing 35 minutes. And so that's a huge boost for Team Canada that they have him, or for Team USA, that they have him driving offense from the back end, and hopefully that will spark their identity too of wanting to play fast. But Team USA also has that jam with the Kachuk brothers. So it's an interesting dialogue, though, as far as the bigger picture. Like, how much do you have to have the other countries in mind when you're crafting your roster, or is it, hey, let's just craft our roster and make other teams have to defend us?
No, yeah, absolutely. Charlie, let's continue this right after the break. We'll be right back here on AM 1410 WRMN.
Hi, this is Sherry Aschenbrenner, Vice President of Dementia Friendly Elgin Area. Everyone knows somebody living with dementia. Caregivers and friends of those with dementia are always welcome at our Elgin Area Memory Cafe, always the second Tuesday of every month at 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. at the South Elgin Public Works Building, 1000 Bowes Road in South Elgin. Also, Dementia Friendly Elgin Area gives free 20-minute dementia awareness trainings to local businesses, church groups, to bunco groups. Just invite us. If you'd like to get put on Sherry's senior email blast list, please email us at dfelist@gmail.com. Also, you can go and visit our website at dementiafriendlyelginarea.org.
Tune in to Sherry's Senior Moments radio show on the second Thursday of each month at 9:05 a.m. until 10 a.m. on WRMN AM 1410, WRMN Radio app, or WRMN Radio on YouTube. That's Sherry's Senior Moments, providing resources and information for our seniors in the community. Since 1960, Fox Valley Fire and Safety has been dedicated to caring for our customers and protecting our community. What began in a family basement with just 2 employees has grown into a team of more than 300, supported by nearly 200 service vehicles. But our mission has never changed. We're here to keep the people and businesses we serve safe. Our service technicians are available 24/7, 365 days a year across Northern Illinois, because your safety can't wait. To learn more, visit foxvalleyfire.com or call 847-695-5990. A proud member of the Elgin Area Chamber of Commerce, supporting the local business community.
Children are the greatest joy and our best hope for a better future. Friends, they are the future. But did you know that millions of kids right here in our own backyard are facing hunger every day? Without healthy food, it's harder to grow, to thrive, to feel their best.
The impact when children don't have enough to eat is tremendous, because when you're hungry and your basic needs aren't being met, you cannot learn.
Every child deserves to be fed. This is a problem we know how to solve. Food is not just food. It's energy, health, confidence, hope, and even love. Yes, love.
Breakfast in the classroom contributes to kids being more focused, which leads to higher grades, and simply just their well-being.
Thank you! Learn more about how No Kid Hungry is helping end child hunger in America at helpnokidhungry.org.
Start your weekend right with Dino's Night Out, Fridays from 2 to 4 p.m. on WRMN 1410 AM. Dino covers what's hot across the Fox Valley, from live shows to food fests and everything in between. Proudly sponsored by the legendary Arcada Theater at 105 East Main Street in St. Charles. Your home for unforgettable concerts, comedy, and more. Tune in on WRMN 1410 AM or stream at WRMN1410.com. Dino's Night Out, your guide to the weekend vibe.
Pizza's here. Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Welcome back here to AM 1410 WRMN. You're listening to On the Rise. Myself, Mike Napolitano, alongside Dalton Cooper, and we are joined once again for some hockey talk by the one and only Blackhawks insider, Charlie Roumeliotis. We're talking Olympics. We were talking about Quinn Hughes right before the break there, and boy, oh boy, they finally got that man to smile That was crazy. I don't know if it was about playing with his brother, playing for his country, playing in Milan, but we saw him crack a little bit of a smile, which was a great thing, you know? So, Charlie, I know you were kind of going on about your point about, you know, the Hughes brothers, and Dalton, I think you had a topic you wanted to jump in there, which was about the Hughes, Quinn specifically as well.
I mean, Quinn's already the best defenseman in Minnesota Wild history, and he's only played like 26 games there. So, no, I think you mentioned Tage Thompson earlier, and I wanted to get Charlie's thoughts on this. Charlie, do we think the biggest hindrance of Team USA, in my humble opinion, is the fact that they only have 5 right-handed players on this roster? Like the overabundance of lefties that play on Team USA, I think, is just about the only weakness. I think they probably have the best back end in the tournament when it comes to goalies and defensemen. So I'm just curious, do you think that ever gets taken into account when they build this roster, or do you see it as the biggest weakness, the fact that they only have so few right-handed players?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and honestly, it's something I didn't think too deeply about, but I wonder if that also played a role into, well, I mean, I guess they thought against it, but, you know, Cole Caulfield and Alex DeBrincat being right-handed shots and them not being on the roster, if you wanted a right-handed shot to play on the left side of the power play, that if they needed kind of like more of a sniper, like an Alex Ovechkin type player, but with Tage Thompson, we know how heavy of a shot he has. I wonder if they didn't want to overthink that part of it too much, and they just wanted to roll with the best forward group that they thought was possible, and even on defense as well. And so, but again, interesting question, because now I feel like I'm going to be watching closely in the tournament on whether that impacts Team USA, especially when they go up against Team Canada.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that, I think a big thing that the biggest reason I noticed it was during the Four Nations last year, and I just realized that everybody is left-handed. I'm like, why is Tage Thompson not on this roster? To your point, he's got that heavy shot and he's right-handed. It just seemed like they were missing him kind of in that puzzle piece, if you will. So it definitely makes a lot of sense why. I think that's the biggest reason why he's on this Olympic roster now, is because they didn't win, the way they lost the Four Nations tournament.
You know what I think the biggest X factor is for Team USA? Not necessarily like the left-handed versus right-handed shots, but what version of Austin Matthews are they going to get?
Yeah.
Because he has not had the greatest season for the Maple Leafs. Now, he is looking more like the player that we know he could be, or over the last, month or so, but he had such a tough start. Now, that system Toronto plays does not really suit Austin Matthews' style. He likes to play fast. He likes to hold the puck. They play more of a dump and chase. They don't play a rush style game like they did under Sheldon Keefe. And so that probably is one of the reasons for his production diminishing, and the fact that he's not playing with Mitch Marner anymore.
Yeah.
But he still didn't look like his miles per hour was significantly dropped from
100%.
last year. So he wasn't skating at the same amount of power, but that has started to change over the last couple of weeks going into the Olympic break. And so hopefully we're getting the Austin Matthews from a couple years ago, and not the Austin Matthews that we saw at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, if he's half as tough as his coach is, I think we're going to be okay.
Well, giving him the C is a huge boost.
Those stitches on his head.
Yeah, right? Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, yeah, no, the stitches for sure. As Dalton was saying earlier, the United States will take on Denmark today in the preliminary rounds of Group C at 2:10 Central Time. Tomorrow it'll be a 2:10 game again. This time it'll be against Germany. Germany has former Blackhawk Lucas Reichel, but I think everybody's looking more so at Leon Draisaitl as the threat on Germany. As far as the goaltending tandems, we'll have to see what we get. I believe they were talking about, is it Swayman today? Swayman today, and then it'll be Hellebuck probably tomorrow, going back to him. As this tournament goes on, I don't know. I think we kind of already talked about this, is that we think it's almost inevitable that we get a North American final, USA versus Canada, but what has to improve? I know you talked about the right-handed shots, Dalton, but Charlie, what do you think has to improve from the U.S. to go up against this Canadian team? Is it so much the right-handedness? I know we kind of talked about that, and there was a lefty that they could add. His name rhymes with Latrick Lane or something like that, but yeah, I don't know.
I do think it's going to be one, how can Team USA defend Team Canada, especially up the middle, and especially if McKinnon, McDavid, Crosby are on 3 separate lines, because then you got to play. It's going to be interesting to see how they play those matchups, but also scoring that extra goal that Team Canada knows they can score, but can Team USA do that? You know, like in the Four Nations tournament, you know, we mentioned earlier, Austin Matthews, he got 3 grade A scoring chances in overtime of the gold medal game, but it was Austin Matthews generating all 3 of those chances. So do they have someone outside of Matthews that could help generate those chances? And, you know, is it going to be a Matthew Tkachuk? Is it going to be a Jack Eichel? You know, that remains to be seen. But I do think offensively, and this is why I think Team USA is going to, there's going to be some noise that ratchets up if they do disappoint in some way in this tournament offensively, because, you know, you leave a guy like Jason Robertson home, Cole Caulfield, you know, Alex DeBrincat, guys that are pure goal scorers at home, and then you're missing that in the tournament, you know, well, then I think they're going to have to rethink how they shape their roster moving forward. So it's going to be interesting. Hey, you mentioned the goaltending. At what point did Jeremy Swayman just jump Jake Ottinger in the depth chart?
Yeah,
I mean,
that was my question too.
Ottinger, yeah, like I know Ottinger hasn't had the greatest season, but I mean, my golly, I can't get that playoff game out of my head. The Game 7, was it against Calgary a couple years ago, where he had like a 50 save performance? Like I think it might have been a shutout. I mean, he's a big time goaltender, and I know Pete DeBoer kind of threw him under the bus after the playoffs last year, but gosh, he's still an unbelievable goaltender. And so I'm kind of surprised that like Jeremy Swayman didn't really tear it up last year. Like I know he's been the hotter goaltender this year, but man, if it got to a situation, this probably isn't going to play a role. But if Connor Hellebuck struggles down the stretch, I would go with Jake Ottinger and more than I would go with Jeremy Swayman. That's just my 2 cents, but they might not even play a role. You know, because Team USA does have an embarrassment of riches in the goaltending department versus Team Canada. But that's just something I thought of. I was like, oh, Jeremy Swayman starting the next game. Like, I don't know what Jake Ottinger did to warrant him slipping to number 3 on the depth chart.
I don't know. I saw Hellebuck live when actually twice now, because we were there for the Jonathan Toews return game, and then but in Detroit on New Year's Eve when it was Patrick Kane versus Jonathan Toews, and I questioned him. Now, granted, it's a Jets team that hasn't really figured things out this year. Maybe their defense is a little lackluster. It's also not international play, although then again, it might not be that much bigger of an ice surface the way the Italians built it. So I don't know. My Paisans didn't do the best of jobs, but you know, when it comes to going to Hellebuck, I was questioning it, but I wasn't questioning Ottinger. And it's weird that, you said Swayman jumps in the depth chart. One of the things I remember they pointed out in that first USA versus Canada game in the Four Nations tournament was that the U.S. likes to play a high forecheck offense using a triangle. And what that does is it limits Canada's speed through the neutral zone. So instead of Connor McDavid doing, it doesn't even have to be on a power play, but that like push him back entry or that slingshot power play, or even just a 5-on-5 rush, they can't get out of their neutral zone because there's a stick check and a forecheck meeting them right at their own blue line. That gets pushed along the wall in the neutral zone, and you can't have that speed from McKinnon or McDavid coming out. We kind of saw it in that final in the Four Nations face-off, but it took things to overtime, and we know how that one went. So I'm looking to see if USA is built. We were talking about how these two teams were built to maybe face each other. I'm looking to see how USA is built to limit that once again when it comes to facing a team that fast. I did get a chance to speak this last week to Patrick Sharp and Chris Versteeg, who are the honorary captains at the AHL All-Star Game. Of course, both gentlemen had to, represent their country. I asked them for an Olympic prediction, and I knew what I was getting into. Versteeg's was in the interview. Patrick Sharp was off camera, and both men are rolling with Canada. But I think we're all in agreement here that our USA prediction is USA for the gold, I think.
Boy, I hope you're right. I do hope you're right. But if Team Canada is going to get the version of Jordan Binnington that we saw in the first game, well, then it's going to be a tough tournament for Team USA. And, gosh, it just feels like in these Olympic tournaments, when the pool is so wide, like with 12 teams, gosh, you run into one hot goaltender. Like, what was it? I think it was like 10 years ago that Latvia almost upset Team Canada, right? Where they had the goaltender that had like 50 saves.
I think it was Merzlikins.
Latvia?
Was it Merzlikins?
Yeah, I think it. Or,
well, I mean,
not,
we just saw him.
Who was the goaltender passed away for Columbus?
Oh,
it wasn't him. I think it was good. You know what? Maybe it was.
I think it was the goaltender that passed away, and I cannot. This is so bad of me.
You're the Columbus fan.
I know. That's what I'm saying. This is so bad.
Yeah, he was
me.
right before Merzlikins, and they were very close.
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank on his name.
But that was like 2015, 2016. To your point.
Yeah. Anyway, it's like if you run into Czechia and like Lucas Dostal just like has a 45 save performance, and you're like, well, what the heck? Like Team USA was the better team, or Team Canada was the better team, but they just ran into like an unbelievably hot goaltender, and so in a tournament where there is no like best of 3, best of 5 or whatever, it could be so fluky. And so I don't know, like I worry that I don't think it's inevitable that Team Canada and Team USA meet in the gold medal game, even though they're prohibitive favorites to meet. Like Team Sweden is like the next team, and they're like plus 1,000 to win the gold medal. So while we do hope that it's a Team USA, Team Canada, a collision course in the gold medal, it's not a guarantee because some weird things can happen in a one and done tournament.
No, 100%. A North American final, I think, would stop time for a minute. The only downside to that would be is that it's going to air that Sunday at like 8:30 in the morning or 7:30 in the morning our time Central. So that's the only downside.
I actually love that.
Really?
I
wake up,
loved waking up on like Saturdays or Sundays, and it would be like Blackhawks versus Blues. And you'd get Doc Emmerich talking about how the Blues are in St. Louis against the Blackhawks for some morning hockey. And then, the Blackhawks would win at that time, and you just have the whole rest of the day to do whatever you wanted to.
Yeah.
Great start to your morning.
And I'm glad you brought up Lucas Dostal, because I think we were talking about this on podcasts that I do outside of, obviously, WRMN, but Czechia was like the one team that consistently got brought up as like, okay, this might be, if you're going to throw a dart and pick a sleeper team that can maybe steal a bronze medal or even, go all the way to, a gold medal game, it seems to be Czechia with Dostal. Is there somebody else that you would kind of maybe, lean on that hot goaltender or maybe could see, putting a run together similar to maybe what we saw in the 80s when the USA won a gold medal?
Yeah, I think Sweden and Finland obviously I think they're 3 and 4 as far as the betting odds and winning a gold medal. So they can always be sneaky good. But yeah, Czechia is the team I'm watching because you need upper echelon players. They have that. David Pastrnak, Marty Necas. I'm not crazy about Czechia's back end. Like they are. There's some age on the back end. Like Jan Ruda and Blackhawks legend Michael Kempny is on that roster, and so that's kind of an area of weakness for them. But I mean, you got Pastrnak and Marty Necas, like they can team up for 2 power play goals in a game, and Lucas Dostal can stand on his head, and I could see Czechia giving a team fits. So. Yeah, that's kind of a team that I'm watching, but yeah, Sweden and Finland, they're always pesky, right? They're always just annoying to play against, and so I still think they're still very much in the conversation as well.
Real quick, that goaltender was Matas Kivlenieks.
Yes.
Matas. I want to almost say Buzelis, but that was the goaltender that we were referencing. I don't know if it was him, but that was the one we were thinking of.
I don't think it was him. I think it was like Kurt. I think that the goalie might actually be on the roster, but he's like the backup or the third. It's like Kirstoff something. I'll look this up afterwards and I'll text it to you, but I think it's like Christers something.
Yeah, that sounds a little bit more like it rings a bell. But you mentioned your rankings. We had similar rankings. I was texting our correspondent, Grant Leader, saying, of course, Canada is number 1. I said we were all in agreement with who we think is going to take home the gold medal here. I'll say In my heart, I think it's USA. In my mind, I think it's Canada. So I had Canada at 1, USA at 2. I had Czechia as this third, but I kind of switched them with Sweden because it's Sweden in the Olympics, as Kurt Russell would say. And then Finland coming in there at 5th. I may have switched out Germany in there. I'm interested to see what they're doing in this tournament. But other than that, I think, it's pretty set who's at the top here. As far as these teams, I should have asked Frank Nazar if he had, even though he was a point per game player with Team USA, if he had any inclination to be the lone NHLer on Team Italy and represent our Paisans.
Yeah, or the Foligno brothers.
Oh yes, that too. Yeah, Marcus and Nick.
Yeah.
Was it Leonard's Feldbergs? That's another name I'm pulling up here.
Doesn't sound like it either, but
yeah. Gudlevics is another name that I keep
him.
Gudlevic. Yeah. What's his first name?
I think it was him.
Christers.
Yes, that's it.
Yep.
That's him. Yep.
I think that was the guy.
Was that 20? That was 2018?
That was 2015. Or 2016. I beg your pardon. 2016.
2016.
Yeah, Canada won 2-1 in overtime, but he made 54 stops on 56 shots.
Wow, that's incredible. So.
And how many shots did Latvia have in that game?
That's
I think because I was going to say that's where you worry, because it probably wasn't a game where it was like 56 shots to 45. It was probably like 56 to like 20, and it was like, good golly, like that scares you if you run into a hot goaltender like that.
No doubt, yeah. We wanted to speak to, speaking of hot goaltenders, we wanted to speak to Drew Commesso. Just missed, I think, the All-Star voting for the AHL side of things. Of course, Rockford having a little bit of a struggle, but I know we'll maybe get one more Olympic talk in here, but I wanted to take it back a little bit to Blackhawks because we just had the AHL All-Star game. Drew Commesso in the pipeline. I know you weren't too high on him and his development, but he comes up, gets that shutout. And have you seen anything that you've liked since then? Anything that could indicate he's moving up into the roster? Because just like Team USA, I think the Blackhawks organization has a wealth of goaltenders right now. So it might be hard to crack that roster, but you've got Spencer Knight, you've got Arvid Soderblom. What are we looking at maybe going into next year?
Yeah, you want to know what's funny? I believe in Drew Commesso, but it wasn't until the Spencer Knight trade went down that Commesso turned into a different goaltender. I mean, because his first couple of years in Rockford, he was struggling a little bit. He was up and down. And then the Spencer Knight trade happens, and you would think that could demoralize a goaltender that's in the system that maybe has eyes on that job down the road. But it fueled him, because if you look at his numbers after the Spencer Knight trade, he was unbelievable for Rockford in the stretch run and then in the postseason. And then this year, Drew Commesso has put up respectable numbers. He gets called up for the stomach bug, those 2 games.
Yeah.
Obviously didn't play well against the Washington Capitals, where I think it was the Capitals, where, he got thrown into the fire in that situation. But then he bounces back in Nashville with a shutout for his first NHL win. And I think that's more of the goaltender that Commesso could be in the NHL. The big challenge, though, with goaltenders is the consistency night in and night out. And so in Rockford or in the AHL or in college, the grind isn't as hard because in Rockford it's different because you are playing an 82-game schedule. So you have you're playing a full slate of games. So there is that, what it feels like to kind of play, 3 games in a row or 2 in 3 days, right? But with Commesso, I think the goaltending pipeline for the Blackhawks has really been, I thought that was an area of weakness a year ago. Then the Spencer Knight trade happens. Then they signed Stan Bereznoy, and now it's looking pretty solid when you throw in Commesso, Adam Guyan, they got Ilya Konarski in the 7th round. So the Hawks have been putting together a pretty solid goaltending pipeline, which was an area of concern for me a year ago.
Yeah, myriad of goaltenders now. So, I'm looking forward to what we have, not only in Chicago, but the depth chart even down into Rockford. Like you said, once some of these Rockford goaltenders move up and, other roles start to fill in, whether that's from across the pond or even ECHL level. But another goaltender that we're going to get a chance to talk to next week. This is a little spoiler for everybody tuning in. Next week, we will have Scott Darling joining the show, 2015 Stanley Cup champion. He's also it's just a weird coincidence that Shoresy is being released in the United States on the same day. I don't know what that's about, but Charlie, I should have asked this question to Sharp and Versteeg this earlier this week. But did you have anything that you want to pass along to Scott Darling when we get a chance to talk to him next week, or any questions?
Well, that's my former colleague. We spent a year or two together at NBC Sports Chicago together, and it was fun to work with. The one thing I always say about Scott Darling is typically, so like in that 2015 Stanley Cup run for the Blackhawks, typically when the backup goaltender is, when their name is on the Stanley Cup, they kind of don't feel like they were part of it because, they likely just didn't play a single playoff game. But the Blackhawks legitimately do not win the 2015 Stanley Cup with the relief performance by Scott Darling. And so that's got to be an amazing feeling as a backup goaltender, knowing that when you lift the Stanley Cup, you played a significant part of it, and the team probably is not hoisting that Stanley Cup, even though he only played in like 4 or 5 games. Like, he was so good in that playoff run. And so I'm always happy for him. And every time I see him, that's got to be just such an amazing memory for him, especially being a Chicago area kid.
No, 100%. I found that shot total, by the way. It was 57-16.
Oh my gosh.
57-16.
Yeah. And the 2-1 overtime victory for Canada.
Jeez.
So,
I mean, wow.
20 was generous.
Yeah. It kind of looks like the USA women's shot totals these days.
100%. 100%. Well, and moving forward, Charlie, we always appreciate you joining us. And I know I can speak for Mike on this as well as myself. We love somebody that's a big puckhead like ourselves. Yeah. As far as what you're looking forward to for the second half, or I guess they got about 30 games left in the season for the Blackhawks, is there something that you're really keeping your eye on, whether it's a specific player or whether it's a culture shift or just whatever it is? Because obviously I think Jeff Blashill has kind of, I would say, been very successful in his first year. I think the expectation was just to see kind of steps in the right direction from this group, and I think we've definitely seen that. So is there anything that you're looking forward to or paying attention to most heading into the back half?
Yeah, great question. I think in the immediate future, it's going to be the trade deadline, because when the roster freeze lifts right out of the Olympic break, I mean, it's going to be like a week and a half until the trade deadline. So yeah, I expect there to be a lot of movement around the NHL, and we'll see where the Blackhawks fall into that. But internally, I'm going to be interested to see how the Hawks handle Artem Levshinov's development down the road, because he obviously was a healthy scratch over the last couple games while he reworked some of the fundamentals. And so I'm wondering if they're going to get him back in the lineup and let him kind of imply or impart the wisdom that he has learned while he was sitting and practicing with the coaches. And then when we get closer to the end of the season, it's going to be interesting to see who joins the Blackhawks in the stretch run, like Anton Frundell. I don't think Roman Kantarov is going to be an option because his KHL season is going to go beyond the NHL regular season. But I think that's going to get fans excited too. Like, who could be the Oliver Moore and Sam Renzel that they join the team late in the season that could provide a little bit of a boost.
That's great. We did get a chance to see Nick Lardis, and real quick before we're out of here, do you think Nick Lardis comes back up to the Blackhawks after the break?
That's a great question. I personally would not. I would let him finish the year in Rockford, and then next year you reevaluate.
Okay.
But I'm really liking what I'm seeing from his development. But I do think his game needs a little bit more seasoning, and so I would want him to stay in Rockford for the rest of the year.
Okay.
Then he comes into training camp next year, and so he's been great though.
Gotcha. Charlie, thank you so much for giving us the whole hour. It's a good thing I talked to Lardis like he was in Rockford still then. But Charlie, I will see you soon, and then look forward to softball in the spring.
I love it, boys. Anytime. Thanks for having me, and we'll chat down the road.
Here on WRMN AM 1410, we like to keep you informed and in tune to what's happening here in the Fox River Valley and what's going on here on WRMN. We recognize the importance of local radio to be a part of the conversation and to be a part of the community for the community.
You know, we talked about the importance of community theater. But supporting community radio is a big deal too. And, you know, for WRMN, this is a really cool thing that you